Hello, and welcome to this video, and in this video we're going to be going over some ways you can stop yourself feeling overwhelmed with world building. Okay, very quick little tidbit about myself, so you know what I'm talking about, that you know that I know what I'm talking about. I've been doing this since I was a pretty young kid, after I started learning to read, really. Uh, I've always had trouble sleeping. Even when I was younger, I had a lot of trouble sleeping, so I would tell myself stories to help me relax and fall asleep. So I've been doing little bits of world building ever since I was a little kid. So I'm going to do my best here to help you overcome that feeling of being overwhelmed. And the way to do that is to focus on what you absolutely need now. Okay, let's say I've got this example here, and this is what an author's workspace on a computer may very well look like. Okay? I have the website fantasynamegenerators.com, I have ChatGPT, and I have a WordPad document. This is really what you start with a lot of the time. And your tools may vary, but these are the ones that I like to use because I've always gotten very good rapid-fire results with them. And I find that getting bogged down and overwhelmed and frustrated, these are the things that lead to paralysis and stopping. You don't want to finish or continue writing, or you set something aside and then end up never coming back to it, or it takes forever to come back to it. So I like to keep moving. I don't like getting bogged down. So I've already found a name I like and kind of decided on a an example that we can work with, a Steampunk Western, and I came over here to Fantasy Name Generators, places and locations, city and town names. Then I came down to the, where is it, Wild West Town Name Generator. And Devilsprings, after a couple of generations, Devilsprings popped out at me. So it's going to be a Steampunk Wild West town. So we're going to say, for the sake of this example, we already have protagonists, maybe some side characters, or maybe you don't even have that much. We could say that all we know is that we want to do a steampunk western story. And we've decided that we need a place for this story to take place, or at least start. So this is going to be our starting point. This is where our world building begins. Devilsprings, Steampunk Wild West Town. So from here, we'd make some simple decisions. And we aren't trying to do everything all at once. We're just focusing on the very key, important points that we need to get started. And then everything just builds from there. That's where people go wrong. That's where people get the most frustrated and overwhelmed, is trying to come up with everything all at once. Trying to feel like they have to have this fully formed idea of the world immediately. That's not how it works. You take it in pieces. And most likely, you will never have a fully formed idea of the entire world. Because, for one thing, you don't need it. Whether you're writing a novel, you're planning a campaign for a TTRPG, or for a video game, or you want to write a script for a TV show, whatever it is, you only need the very focused parts of the world where things are going to be happening. And you can build out some lore over time is if you need it, or you want to add some lore for different things, but what you absolutely need is where the things will be happening. What are the characters going to be encountering? Okay? So Devilsprings. Well, we already have an idea that this may be a place where there are springs, and it's called Devilsprings, so maybe this is someplace near, we could say this is an alternate world where Yellowstone, is it? Yeah, Yellowstone. Or even it could be a fantasy world, but we can make decisions about that later. So let's just start with hot springs, question mark, sulfur uh, rich, rich, hot springs, springs. Okay, so we've got a couple of ideas here. Hot springs, sulfur-rich hot springs. This is going to be a town at least close to where there's some volcanic activity, but more like geysers and stuff. So we could actually say maybe a geothermal power source. Very high possibility we could have that as part of the town. Okay. So we're already starting to build out some details, and this, we use ChatGPT if we get stuck, but the starting point is just you focus in on what are some key details that will make sense for this. It's about logic, narrative logic, and this little piece of the world, what do we know about it? And sometimes just giving it a really evocative name will give you plenty to work with. But if not, we can use AI. For example, at this point, let's say, well, I've run out of things. We know it's a Wild West town. Maybe it has hot springs. Let's say it has hot springs and some sulfur-rich hot springs. We're not going to leave this as question marks anymore. We're going to say that these are going to be plot, or not necessarily plot points. They could become plot points. But we're going to say that we have this, and so we come over here to ChatGPT and give me some ideas for this setting in my story. And it's going to give us some results. Okay, and now what we want to do is that we're not going to take anything straight out of this. We just want to look and see what it comes up with that we can use to build up our ideas. And again, this is how you get started with your world building. You don't need the entire world, you just need this one town to start with, and then you can start building up from there. So a frontier boom town built atop a volatile geothermal vein, steam vents hiss in the streets, metal pipes run along rooftops like metallic vines, brass turbines churn day and night, powering everything from saloons to steam trolleys. Air constantly smells faintly of sulfur, giving the town its name. So that is all good. We can just go ahead and grab that. And this is starting to give us, this gives us an image that we can hold in our heads. So now, because I like all of this stuff, really. I mean, maybe not the metal pipes running along rooftops like metal vines, but, we can keep it for now. And it gives us some ideas for landmarks and locations. You will find that if you give ChatGPT something very specific to work with, you will get a lot of very good results. Because the more specific you can be, the more it has to work with. Sulfur Basin, Brass Dragonworks. I don't know about Dragonworks, geothermal power plant where massive dragon-shaped boilers belch out steam. Engineers in leather aprons monitor pressure gauges the size of wagon wheels. Okay, so don't really like all of that. Sulfur Basin, a sprawling field of neon blue and orange geothermal pools, beautiful, deadly, and rumored to be a gateway to the underworld. Locals claim spirits whisper in the steam. So this is where you would start looking at some of the things that it's given you and go, do I really want any supernatural elements in this? And if the answer is no, then what you would want to do is you would go ahead and keep the idea of landmarks and locations, because that's a good place to start. And And we can keep the kind of the initial description because that's very evocative. Neon blue and orange geothermal pools. You might want to look up images of actual geothermal pools and add some more details based on that. But we're going to skip the rest of this stuff. And the dragon works, okay. We can go ahead and take this, but I don't really want the kind of, the feeling of fantasy elements. So we can just say that instead of the whatever, it's just the power works. It's a geothermal power plant where massive boilers belch out steam. Engineers in leather aprons monitor pressure gauges at all times of day. Okay. Devil's Spine. Jagged canyon filled with unstable geysers. Prospectors dig for rare minerals between eruptions. Rocks glow faint red at night. So again, take the details that fit what we're trying to come up with here, and skip the stuff that we don't like. Rusted Halo Saloon. Saloon powered by everything is, so that's redundant. Steam-cooled whiskey. Clockwork poker tables, I don't know what that would be. Mechanical pianist that sometimes learns new songs on its own. Do we want AI involved in this? Not really. But this does give us a location possibility. So we can come over here, and I believe there's steampunk house names. Don't know what that is. Let's look. Oh, is this for like names? Houses, okay. There is one, I believe it's bar and saloon, is it? Or I know there is one here somewhere. Places and locations. So it's not a saloon, not bar, club. Okay, I know there is one, I'm just having a hard time spotting it. For like saloons and nightclub names. It's not really what we need, though. So let's just do a search. Saloon, not salon, saloon. Western saloon name generator. Tavern names. Okay, there's a tavern name generator in here. Okay, this is the one. Hot pan, flute, diamond kangaroo, no. And this is one of my big secrets, if you want to call it that, is simply that I don't waste a lot of time worrying about finding or coming up with the perfect name, because it doesn't exist. I find something I like, and I use random generators because it gives me lots of things that I can look at very quickly. The slow hawks, no. The wet knife, or wet wife. The wet wife, that sounds kind of funny. Wet wife saloon. Okay. So we can go ahead and leave the details on that and just go back over here and keep looking. The steam rail depot. Experimental steam rail lines arrive. Some trains run on heated vapor from deep wells. Don't know how that would work. Others, okay, so we just know that there's a train depot. You will find often that the AI will come up with things that make absolutely no goddamn sense whatsoever. And your role, of course, as the person leading this whole project is to simply take what you like and get rid of everything you don't. Bathhouse of St. Kettle. Luxurious hot springs bathhouse said to cure wounds and occasionally cause prophetic visions. Again, don't want any supernatural elements. So, and would a Wild West town necessarily have a bathhouse? It might. I don't know about that one. I'd have to come back to it. That doesn't really, it doesn't feel right. And this is where your genre savvy, your genre knowledge comes into play. When you're getting ideas by using AI, you have to really think about things from that point of view of what really makes sense, what would work, what doesn't work. Factions and groups, boiler barons, industrialists who own most of the geothermal wells. Okay, that makes sense. Steam Rights Guild. Automata, okay. We can have some steampunky automata, that stuff. Maybe not the AI stuff. You know, every hidden tunnel beneath the town, sure. Shamans. Again, I don't know about supernatural elements. Gang of thieves who navigate the underground steam tunnels, wear goggles and masks to survive the cold sulfur clouds. I don't know about like that. Geothermal regulators, federal-style organizations sent to keep the geothermal energy under control, but they're secretly researching weaponization. I don't know about that either. So we have two factions that we can definitely roll with here. The first two make complete sense, but I don't know about the others. Especially since I don't particularly want to go in a supernatural direction. Okay. This is... We don't want magic. Big Bass and the Sulfur Springs emerge with glimpses. No. Automaton Revolt. This is something that really isn't important for right now. Atmospheric details. Constant plumes of steam around street corners. Brass lampposts that glow with heat instead of electricity. I don't know about that. Water troughs that bubble from natural heat. No. Houses built on stilts to avoid sudden bursts of ground pressure. No. Sulfur fog rolls in each night like a ghostly blanket. No. Citizens wear goggles casually. Steam burns are common. So, we can go ahead and take a couple of these. I don't know about that whole glowing... We can just say brass lampposts. And this part kind of makes sense. And we can have a fog that's a common fog issue. But not necessarily each night. Let's just say instead of that, I didn't really need to copy that over. Let's just say steam and steam clouds and fog are very common. So now we have that. Extra additions. Hot spring creatures, no. Steampunk gadgets. Steam revolvers that use thermal cartridges. I don't know about that. Spring-powered jet boots for crossing hot vents. Maybe. Pressure reader bracelets that glow when an eruption is coming. Okay, we can actually take that as a possible little element for our world building. And just simply add used by anyone traveling near where eruptions happen. Okay. So now we have gotten some things that we can build off of from ChatGPT, and from here, it is a process of simply taking what you have. And again, you use ChatGPT, you take what you like, you get rid of what you don't, and then you start building it up. So at this point, let's just kind of take a look through here and see what other details we can come up with. So we've got the Wet Wife Saloon with a train depot. We don't have details for either of those. So let's go ahead and add in some little details. Or you can even go back to ChatGPT and ask it to give you some ideas for that too. It all depends on what is becoming a sticking point for you. If you were running into something and you're just sitting here and you go, the wet wife saloon, I got nothing. Well, you don't want to waste a bunch of time trying to come up with, again, the perfect idea. What you do is you grab these two things and you come over and you say, well, let me look here. Is there anything for like a train depot or station names or something like that? I'm not seeing anything. Let's just try train station name generator. Railway names. Okay. So there is one here. It's just under railway names. Sleeping Mountain route. Okay. That actually, the very first thing that popped up, and it makes complete sense. We got the Sleeping Mountain route, and let's say Blackwater's line. Okay, I like that. And let's see, Serpent Falls tracks. Okay, that sounds interesting. And the Wet Wife Saloon. Okay, so at this point, we can start building up some things about the train. So we've got these three different routes that are part of the train line. We can go ahead and drop these down so it's a little bit easier to. So the Sleeping Mountain route. Blackwater's line and Serpent Falls track. So let's say the Blackwater's line, I'm going to say this is the main rail route into and out of the town. And here we're going to say, well, this is a town that has three different train routes. So is this going to be three different train stations? This might be a really big town. It's a frontier boom town, okay? So we can say this is a pretty good sized town. We could get a lot of a story just right inside this town, depending on what kind of story we're going to be telling. But we're going to just say the main rail route into and out of town is the Blackwaters line. It follows a river with very dark, mineral-rich water. It is common to find people panning for gold in its waters. So now we have some more details and some more possible story elements that we can bring in. The Sleeping Mountain route. A small line that runs up into the nearby volcanic foothills for the Sleeping Mountains. At this point, I'd have to say this is probably not set in our world necessarily. It could still be our world, just a different version with different names and things. But it could very easily just be like a steampunk fantasy world, except that we're not going to have like a lot of the typical fantasy stuff. More sci-fi, I guess you could say, or just straight steampunk in a different world. So we know that it's going to be there, let's say mostly used by miners and prospectors. Okay, the Serpent Falls tracks. Another smaller line that goes out into the Serpent Falls, a popular vacation location for wealthy travelers. It terminates at the Serpent Falls Resort. Let's say in casino. So now we've actually built up quite a bit. This video is so far 25 minutes, and we've got a lot of stuff we can work with. And I'm hoping that you're seeing that it isn't really difficult to do this. Okay? It's just a matter of letting your imagination take you places. And if you get stuck somewhere, don't get frustrated. Just come over to ChatGPT and ask it to give you some ideas. And if you don't like any of them, ask it to give you some different ideas. It's not going to get mad at you. And you use the random name generators to get more ideas, and just so you're not sitting there spinning your wheels trying to come up with the perfect name that doesn't exist. You use those random name generators to find something that just pops out at you. And you keep moving. Keep building. Alright, so yeah, at this point, you have the basic idea of how you would take just a name of a town and start building it out into a setting. And then it's just about adding more bits and bobs, more details. And you build up from there. And then once you have your town, your setting, you can kind of go from there and build up some bits and pieces about the broader world at large, but only when you need it. Because at this point, what I would do, I would say that I have a pretty solid foundation for this town. If I don't have a solid plot in mind for a story at this point, or a campaign, or script, whatever, I would start going through here and using what we already have to get some ideas about what the story is going to be, who our protagonist or ists are going to be, will be, are going to be, all of that sort of stuff. It's just a matter of building things up over time. So I hope you found this useful. I will be back with more videos, and of course I have a couple of books in the description that you might want to check out that can help you with plotting and the basically from the desire to write an isekai story all the way to getting to where you can finish the draft and start your editing and then get it published. But 15 steps to create an isekai novel story, and some things like that the links will be in the description. So thank you very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Later.